My name is Derek Crane. I work for Vortic Watch Company as one of the head builders in the assembly room here. So we're currently located in downtown Fort Collins. My history with watchmaking kind of goes back to about 2010, and this was in Central Coast of California, in my hometown, San Luis Obispo. Well, when I was going to junior college, in between classes, I would go visit a local watch shop. I was really fascinated with watches and clocks and all sorts of mechanics. My family sort of got interested in jewelry and watchmaking, and so we kind of had this nice community going, and eventually I got to study and learn and become an apprentice for a master watchmaker and a jeweler. So in between classes, I would help out in the shop, and I started out doing some really small tasks, such as changing batteries and adjusting links and bands. Eventually, I started working with customers, taking orders in, and got more interested in taking mechanical watches apart. I moved from quartz watches to mechanical watches. I was able to kind of figure out the mechanics of watches through this local watch shop. It was a much different dynamic than what I'm doing now, but it was a good foundation for me because there was just a drawer of broken watches, and so I was able to take these watches apart and kind of see how they all had similar trends in terms of the mechanics. That shop was more of a repair shop, so we weren't actually producing brand new watches off the shelf. We were restoring watches. And so I was really fascinated with taking things that were really old and bringing them back to the best that they can be. In turn, the customers were really satisfied because they could have their valuables and their antiques renewed. I was sort of kind of at a position in my life where I had graduated school from UC Santa Cruz with a physics degree, and I moved back to my hometown, and I was working for this watch shop once again. I sort of just kind of wanted to see more of the world, was kind of doing the same thing every day, and it's not that, in fact, I was really happy with what was going on. I was involved with music and the climbing community, and I just kind of felt like I needed to get outside of the place I grew up, and so I wanted to see more of the States. When we get too comfortable with things, life kind of gets a little dull, and so it's kind of almost good to feel uncomfortable at times so that you experience life more fully and then make memories and sort of do some personal growth. And I had an opportunity with a friend to go to Colorado, and I kind of reasoned that there was a lot of the things that I loved in my hometown here. I was at an interesting point in my life. I was mid-20s, and I pretty much sold everything I could to fit into my 92 Firebird. And so, I said goodbye to all my friends in California, and I moved out here. And so it was very exciting. First time, it was the farthest I've driven alone, over 20 hours. And it was, I'd never even been to Colorado or anywhere past. I flew into Utah once. So driving through the Rocky Mountains was pretty incredible experience, seeing just like fog over all the big granite slabs. As a climber, I was pretty excited. I knew that there was a lot of climbing in Colorado, but once I moved out here, now I realize that this is probably the best place to be a climber, in the world. You can climb all year round, and you can do everything from rope climbing to bouldering to traditional climbing or just scrambling in the mountains. Within an hour or two from my door, I have a lifetime of climbing around me. And so it's pretty wonderful to live in a place where I can blend my hobbies and my work together. When I first moved out here, I immediately was already on Craigslist as I was driving out, and I joined a group called Rusty 44. It's a bluegrass group. Didn't even have an upright bass. I got really lucky. I've always wanted to own an upright bass, and I ended up buying one out here, and then that kind of led me to start playing with another bluegrass group called Bluegrama. It's literally the slang scientific term for bluegrass. And so it was really exciting, but when I got into the town, I sort of knew what I wanted to do. It was sort of like once I got here, I hit the ground running, and now I have an abundance of friends and community. It was scary, but also I think necessary for me as a person, and a lot of people should take experiences like that so they can kind of do some personal growth or just shake things up. There's a lot to see and a lot to do. And sure enough, when I moved out here, I got involved with the climbing community and the music community, and it turned out there was this company, Vortic Watch Company, and it was pretty incredible that I already had a background with watchmaking, and then I was able to integrate into this new company. When I initially started learning watchmaking and the whole trade, I think the thing that fascinated me the most was, taking something old and really putting as much attention into it and making it new again. I mean, there's something about repairing something and restoring it is such a satisfying feeling. The first time you clean a watch and then you put the pieces together and you oil it up and you move the watch a little bit and you see all the parts moving. It's hard to explain how exciting that is, because it's like everything is so precise, and you still got a long route to go and regulate it and adjust it, but it's, to see everything line up, it's a great feeling. And so, especially with these old antique watches, it's incredible the tolerances they had 100 years ago. And, I'm still learning things every day, and it goes back to just what I was told, when you get a watch and you're trying to diagnose what's wrong with it, you really just observe everything. You just kind of let it speak to you a little bit, because eventually you'll kind of reason which parts need to be replaced or which parts aren't working properly or which relationship isn't working. I think the fascination for me was just seeing everything kind of come together. It's a hard thing to describe, but everything really has to be perfect. And so I think the satisfaction of restoring something to the best that it can be and then making someone happy, that's the best part about watchmaking, I think. Usually when I have a task at hand, I am kind of in a state of observing, I've noticed, and being curious, because that's when you're going to find things that are kind of going to jump out at you. You got to be really open to every sort of detail. And I feel like if you have a clear mind, and then you can allow things to sort of reveal themselves, and then you can perform your task accordingly. And that goes with, I think, most things as far as music goes and climbing goes. Sometimes if I feel like one thing is giving me trouble, instead of focusing so hard on that one thing, if I think of other things that bring me inspiration, then I can usually kind of conquer or achieve the thing that I want to achieve. The concentration, the patience, the perseverance, all of those things is really what makes a good watchmaker. I mean, you have to be willing to do something over and over again. Sometimes I'll work on a watch and I'll try to make it work, and it's just, so I have to put it aside. And the same thing goes with, when I was studying physics and working on problems, I couldn't figure it out, I'd put it aside, and, eventually the next day you wake up, or, a week later even, and it just clicks, or something works and you have progress. And incremental progress is probably the best thing, because at least you're moving towards your goal. If I'm really trying to figure out why something isn't working, it's a sort of process of elimination sometimes, but it's really returning to the basics. And that goes with all aspects of my life. It's always like the fundamental thing is usually the problem. Like, why isn't this watch doing what it's supposed to do? Well, breaking that down to the most simple part, where would that interaction exist? And then going from there. I think using those basic building blocks is a way of kind of diagnosing and sort of troubleshooting. With watchmaking, precision is the number one game. And so, everyone has a different way of doing watchmaking. There's a set of rules with everything, but it is a creative process as well. It's especially when you're building a watch. I mean, everything that we do here is hands-on and creative. The style of hands, the dials, how decorative the movements are, how much we do finishing and polishing on the cases. It all is a creative process, and usually it's kind of reflective on the experiences and inspiration that you can pull from. Gosh, I mean, so many stories and memories here at Vortic. It's been such a wonderful place for me to grow as a person. I love getting up in the morning and making some coffee and rolling into this facility with just like beautiful natural lighting, and having this space to just kind of be at my desk. I describe it as my playground. I got like my little hammer and like screwdrivers and tools, and sharpen my tools and like kind of tune up myself as I get ready. And I interact with the watches every morning. I get to wind them, and it's really a therapeutic thing. It's really peaceful. I got wonderful coworkers, and there's so much learning that every day is learning, not just with watchmaking, but just the world around me. This would be the 1,000th watch that I have built, which is kind of interesting to say that I've done something 1,000 times now. Yeah, it's got character, definitely. It's one that I don't think we've really seen before, so that it must be pretty exclusive. And it's a Hamilton Masterpiece movement, which is the grade 992. It's a very exclusive watch. They made, if I remember, 2,600 of these watches, which is a really small fraction of the amount of watches that Hamilton made. It's regulated to 5 positions, so that's definitely above the average. Also, this movement back in the 20s, to my knowledge, was only cased in gold and platinum cases. So it really was the Hamilton's top timepiece. There's a couple of things that make this watch a little special. It's for one, the dial. It's an incredible dial. If you see this dial, it's really unique, and we haven't seen one like this before. Everything about it is just special. The hands as well are one of a kind. But as far as the actual build as a whole, we put it in a bronze case, which is kind of new to, at least with our new version of our cases. So the cool thing about bronze is that over time it patinas, so whoever owns this watch is going to see this beautiful case sort of age to their liking as they handle it throughout the years. It's kind of neat because the dial is so immaculate and perfect, but then the case is going to sort of darken and fade over time and be more antique-like. It also has a bronze crown, and it's a little bit polished at the top. So really the overall aesthetic of the watch is very flashy, and it's going to be pretty neat to see the watch go from really flashy to a little bit more worn and antique. We put it aside for a long time and wondering what to do with it. And as I got closer to reaching my 1,000th build, it's like, well, this could make a pretty good story. And so I'm going to be pretty excited for whoever ends up owning it. I hope that they are able to, enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed the whole process of being here at Vortic and all of the experiences along the way.